The real reason bad games go woke.
Elon's tweet on Gamergate too. Elon Musk tweeted about this.
It's not that gamers are, upset about, oh, hey, we have some diversity in the game. It's actually the way that they go about it with pure tokenism, with phoning in weak characters instead of creating strong new characters.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. Most people don't really care if the character is a girl, black, Latin. Oh, I'm sorry, Latinx. I got you, fam. Asian or whatever. It's the fact that typically when these characters are those things, they are the most stereotypical, unlikable, clearly misplaced characters ever that serve no purpose but to just say white people bad or something like that. Yeah. In general, I don't think anyone has a problem with these things, but when you make it like that, everyone has a problem with these things.
And more importantly, it's about a vindictiveness to destroy the past, to destroy the IP, to ignore the source material, and to tear apart these beloved characters in some sort of fitful rage that we don't.
Dude, this guy's so right. I have been saying this for a while now, but it has already been confirmed by Hollywood from people working in Hollywood that this is exactly what they are doing. When Hollywood, for example, gets a new project of making some kind of comics book adaptation, a book adaptation, a game adaptation, they are literally telling the people working on the series, ignore the source material, make something completely new, just in the skin of the thing that we stole. And that's what's currently happening. It is literally now documented that this is exactly what they say to showrunners. It's crazy.
Don't understand and is very disingenuous.
I think he's right about that, by the way. I don't think that people have a problem whenever a game, like, for example, like, people might meme on Forspoken or something like that, but it's its own IP. So, like, if people don't like the game, then they don't like the game. That's up to them. But I think what people really have a problem with is whenever you go into an existing franchise and you change things retroactively.
I think that is...
I think he completely missed the point about the first part, but yeah, when you go into a franchise and change things retroactively, or in general, just for the sake of changing things, yeah, then people don't like it.
Tremendous reaction, Suicide Squad, and this is going to have an immense
same with that game
financial impact. The way games are funded, you don't use your own money. Even EA, okay? Games are hugely expensive to make. They're upwards of 250, sometimes $600 million.
Probably Diablo 4
for certain live games. It's incredibly how expensive they are, and to do that, your CFO is your best friend. You're counting on your CFO to get you tax breaks, to get you in, to put studios in.
Chief Financial Officer, by the way. I don't really know why he's saying the CFO is, because the CFO doesn't do this. There are people under him that's part of the job description is to do that, most likely.
Regions which are financially favorable, and you will borrow the cheap money. You will get a cheap money to do it. Yeah. Even EA does this. I worked with EA. We were putting together a deal where they were taking bailout money from the banks in the last financial crisis that we had.
The last
and they were
one.
applying that cheap money towards games. Same thing with COVID money.
I can't wait for the next one. Why? Because I have money. And keep in mind, boys, remember this. If you have money, financial crises are amazing. Because it kind of literally just doubles your money. If you don't have money, well, financial crises are really bad then. Remember that. When you think that your government officials that are worth multiple millions don't want a financial crisis, because they do. Because their money is gonna double. They're gonna buy all the cheap shit. I'm gonna buy the cheap leftover shit, while you get completely destroyed because you can't buy anything and your cost of living goes up. Just remember that one. So you have, a nice day and whatnot. But by the way, yeah, what this guy is saying is completely right. Which actually kind of brings me to a different point, so let me explain. Every company in the world that is big is gonna try and use money that's a very good loan or something like that. During the disease of unknown origin, there were multiple funds where companies and whatnot could take out money if they needed it. Every single big company took out the maximum amount of money they could because it's essentially free money. They get to invest it without almost any chargeback or whatever, without any percents or whatever, and it's just free money. This is essentially, by the way, the same thing that... this is going to be one hell of a story. Well, it's not one hell of a story, but it just makes me question life so much. This is essentially what everyone... advised you to do, to buy homes and things like that, do real estate. You know, you get a loan, then you buy a home, and the rent just covers the loan, so essentially every year you just gain more wealth while it's, you know, stuff like that. You probably know what I'm talking about, right? I don't need to explain that too much. So, this is actually the correct way of doing things. Every big business does it. Everyone does it. If you have the possibility of taking free money out and putting it somewhere where it just accumulates and gets you money every year while you're not actually receiving any money every year, but your wealth keeps increasing because you did that, that is a good thing. Every company does it. Banks do it. Real estate property flippers do it. Everyone does it. Literally, if you're looking at a company that, you know, does anything with anything, they're probably trying to do that exact concept to literally everything in life possible. But now we're at a point where normal people are actively telling other people, no, getting a loan of 2% per year, which gets completely covered by a renting property that you can lease out to someone, is stupid and bad. We have gone full circle. We have literally gone completely full circle. People initially wanted to get better, get income, and, you know, better themselves, and they actually were granted the right thing to do. But considering so many idiots exist in the world, now everyone's screaming that that is actually the wrong thing to do and it's bad. This is why people will always stay poor, okay? This is why there are literal billionaires on Twitter with 10 followers explaining to you step by step how to actually become a millionaire, and it works 9 times out of 10, but no one's doing it because it costs effort. This is why people can actually tell you the secret to their success and not worry about anyone ever succeeding the same way, because most people couldn't even copy it properly. What a time to be alive.
Money. They're applying that cheap money towards games. And what has been the cheapest money while interest rates were still low, you know, a couple of years ago? It was ESG financing.
So this reveals a lot. This reveals that the companies are assuming that it's true. Big assuming, right? Is Mark Kern telling the truth or not? Is he lying? It's hard to say.
Because Asmongold knows better, obviously.
He's either lying or telling the truth based off of if you agree with him or not. But I think that if you assume that it is true, it means that the companies are actually only pushing for any of this stuff because it's the easiest thing to do. It's like in a video game where, like, the most efficient way of farming is by...
Did he seriously just figure that out? It's not even a secret. ESG score literally works like this. You do X things for your company that promote, you know, whatever, and you get money in return. That's how it works. It's literally free money. That's why people like ESG scores for companies, because it's free money.
Like doing something extremely fucking boring, but like doing it 1,000 times, and everybody's doing that, and then the developer's thinking, oh my god, people must really love this content. But no, they're just metagaming the system. Yeah, you think they, yeah, exactly. And I think it goes back to what I was saying before, right? About how these companies don't genuinely care about any of these problems or any of these people.
And so they're going to take this money and they're going to put it into games. But now that they don't have that...
These companies in general don't care, but the moment you do some kind of ESG score shit or something like that, a problem occurs, okay? Even if no one cares and everyone just is bumping shoulders and saying, ha ha ha, they're now getting the CSG money. At some point, because you do these things, radical woke lunatics are gonna come in your country and probably start working in HR, and at that point, well, you have to take it seriously, otherwise you're potentially gonna get fired for being a racist or something. So there you go.
That money anymore because ESG is either being diminished or rebranded because the returns on investment have been so poor on Wall Street for ESG funds that source of revenue is drying up. This woke machine cannot continue in the way that it is now.
Well, of course it can't. But like the reason why is
I question this. Can it really not? Marvel has been ruining themselves. Disney has been ruining themselves. Hollywood in general have been ruining themselves with this woke nonsense garbage. And Disney has literally lost 3 or 4 billion last year. Literally lost. And it's all because of this. And yet they're doubling down even more now. So is the well of money just infinite?
It's because the content isn't good. And you have to keep in mind, why is it that the funds are drying up? The reason why is because the people that are going after them can't get any other funds. So if you can't get any other funds from, people that like believe in your product, you can't get any funds from people that think that your product is going to make a lot of money. And the only way that you can get any money is if you add in some sort of like fake diversity to it, which is basically what he's saying. Then yeah, big surprise, that's going to lose a lot of money because you're creating a selection bias again for the worst possible actors.
AAA gaming. And I think unfortunately it's so entrenched that you're not going to see much of an ability to course correct because the studios are
they're just going to shut down, right?
They're going to shut down.
Yeah.
And this is truly the rise of AA gaming, or what some of my fans call S tier gaming. This is
like Helldivers.
Like Helldivers, Power World, the Diablo West
Diablo,
game that came out. I
Last
forget the name of that.
Yeah.
Really incredible success stories in a period where game companies are experiencing significant losses. The bleeding will
people love games. People just don't like games that suck. It's that simple.
Continue until and no one's going to wake up from it. Unfortunately, it's going to be a total nosedive.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's right about that or not. I mean, like whether this is going to actually just end up killing these studios or not. But maybe it will, because it's like, it's hard to get rid of people like that once you get them in there. For example, do you really think that EA cares about minorities? Do you really think Bobby Kotick cares about? Oh, there's more. Wait a second. Yeah, they don't really care about these things. All they care about is money. So the moment that they're not making money, they will kick these people out and post about it publicly to like basically as a public execution, and everybody will cheer. They'll be happy. But keep in mind, the company isn't doing this. It's not like the company learned, they learn from their bad actions. No, they're like, say, oh, these people have more money. Well, let's go make these people happy instead. They don't care about.
This is a possibility, but not a guaranteed thing that happens. Because, Bobby Kotick doesn't care about any of that garbage, obviously, because he's the true G. Bobby! He's gonna be back, boys. The devil never goes away, and Bobby's, he's one of the best, okay? Love you, Bobby. Anyway, Bobby Kotick doesn't care about all of this, but still, Activision Blizzard is full of woke trash. So many people. Look at the Diablo 4 team currently. They're all literally woke, insane, lunatic losers. You can very much clearly tell it when you look at the developers that they are woke, and they have no plans to not be woke. So, yeah, you can technically get rid of them, but you're not really gonna get rid of them if it's so embedded.
About you, then. The only reason they care about you at that exact moment is because it is beneficial to them. That's it.
ESG funding and the way people bend budgets, you can take that same parallel to like Hollywood, right? There's a reason all those Hollywood films, all the woke Disney crap was filmed in Europe. They were getting like, I think for the Marvels, they got something like a $50 million tax break.
That's a lot of money.
In these tax breaks and all this kind of stuff, I happen to agree with you that I think the money's not gone, but I think it's not flowing as freely as it once was.
Well, after you have long enough for something like this to run its course and people see that it doesn't give returns, then people will stop supporting it. It's that simple.
I mean, it takes a long while, though. How long did it take for esports to realize that, wait a fucking minute, none of this shit is paying back any... Dude, we gave them all this money on esports, and none of this is returning anything to us. Yeah, it is what it is.
It's not just money. Like you pointed out, different regions will offer tax credits. And these things come with strings attached, all right?
Right.
Yeah.
Political strings attached.
But the World Economic Forum is just a boogeyman, Asmongold. Oh, yeah. It is. Diversity hires don't exist.
And one thing that, everyone needs to realize is that it's not that these studios are funding the games out of their own pocket. That would be very expensive for them. Cash is king. They will preferably go out and get money from other sources if it's cheap enough to help.
By the way, I don't know if it's currently cash is king, but, a couple of years ago, cash was trash. Now cash is, well, a year ago at least, the last time I checked the situation, cash was king. So currently, I don't know what's happening. But yeah, probably I'm assuming cash is still king with everything that's happening.
Spread the risk of these massive titles. And so you have a lot of quid pro quo happening.
Quid pro quo means you suck my dick, I'll suck yours.
And I can tell you that devs have been approaching me and giving me some inside baseball on what's been happening. And there are funding deals out there for studios, and I can't get too specific. I don't want to out my sources, that have certain strings attached.
So I'll do you a favor if you do me a favor.
A company will suddenly sign with...
No, not at all. The strings attached are like this. You're gonna do X, then we're gonna give you Y. It's not a favor for favor. No. They're literally getting paid to include things in it that they don't originally maybe even want to include.
A developer, and now that developer needs to hire a DEI director and needs to go out and hire consultancy firms to gender
creating a need,
balance their staff, or quite specifically, go out and hire companies like SBI to consult on their writing and do sensitivity reading and changes for that. And what does all this do? It boosts...
Sweet Baby Inc. is just a boogeyman. It doesn't exist, Asmongold.
Their ESG score. It allows them access to that funding. So ESG is not going away entirely. It's become an evil...
ESG is not a bad thing fundamentally. So...
Wasn't he previously of the opinion that ESG score is not even a boogeyman, that it's not bad?
I'm going to give you another example of how ESG isn't a bad thing. And everybody is like mentally programmed to say ESG is bad. But please try to just bear with me here and try to listen and think about it objectively. So environmental, social governance. Social is only one part of that. Environmental is another. So, for example, there are a lot of laws in Europe that disallow people from having single-use types of like forks or plates or things like that whenever you go to a restaurant, like a fast food restaurant. So what the ESG would be for in that circumstance with a company like that would be making sure that these companies are compliant with future upcoming regulations in Europe that regulate the way that things happen and the way that things are made.
No. That's not how it works. It doesn't need to be compliant with future fucking shit of that. The ESG score is literally just designed to push companies to apply certain criterias, And yeah, the ESG score does have a part in the environmental stuff, but the environmental stuff, again, currently all of our environmental dread and shit like that is based not on science. It's just not, okay? Scientists for the last 70 years have been saying that we will die every year pretty much because, and by the way, in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, it was freezing. We were gonna all die from freezing. And by the way, the science was settled at that time. It's unavoidable. We must change now or we're all dead. Then the freezing didn't happen. Yeah, I know. How did we miss that? I'm surprised. I'm shocked also that we didn't all freeze to death. Then it was global warming. Well, if the ice thing didn't happen, surely it's gonna be the hot thing, right? And then, every year it was too late to save the world because we're all gonna die from heat. And this was a thing in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and whatnot. And then again, didn't happen, everyone got bored of it, and now it's just called climate change in general. And what does climate change mean? Well, nothing, but it is the most perfect nebulous term. Because you see, climate change is actually real. I'm not denying that. I am denying man-made climate change. I have not seen any sufficient evidence at all that supports the fact that we as humans currently can actually, have an impact on the Earth. The Earth by itself changes over time. It literally does it on its own. It has done it throughout all of its history. Climate change is very real, but it's not human-made. The Earth does it on its own, and there is no way to avoid it. For example, typically it's the carbon thing, typically all of the man-made shit is attributed to the increase of carbon in the atmosphere, right? Well, one of the reasons why it's actually attributed to it is because there's this really neat graph that shows increase in temperature, and it's very, 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 very closely similar to the carbon graph, which is hilariously amazing. But the problem is the carbon graph, when you compare the measurement scales, it doesn't actually go into the same flow with the increase of temperature, which is a bad thing, because the carbon graph is exponential, pretty much. It almost looks exponential. But the problem is, while the carbon graph looks exponential, well, when you apply it to the actual increase in temperature graph, it's not exponential for some reason. The numbers don't fit it to be exponential. Also, there's a dip in carbon at one point, but there's no dip in average temperatures. Then there's this funny thing about, well, if carbon is really to blame for everything that's happening here, which, by the way, most scientists say, yes, why can't we prove it in a scientific experiment? It should be super easy just to do it. You take air, the stuff that we have here, you put it in a place, a jar, a fart jar or whatever, you measure the amount of carbon in that jar, and you measure its temperature. And after that, you just add in carbon, and, well, you should actually see the temperature in the jar go up dramatically if you add more carbon. The carbon amount in the atmosphere currently is like 3, 4 or something-ish percent like that. And so, if carbon is responsible for the heating of the atmosphere, you could very easily just take a piece of air, pump more carbon in it, and then see how much it goes up. But that doesn't happen, sadly. How is that possible? Well, I don't fucking know. But it doesn't happen. You can pump in the carbon in the air, and it's not gonna work like that. So, it is what it is.
Made in these restaurants. You see what I'm saying? Paper straws and shit. Yeah, exactly. And so, if you are investing in a company, do you want to invest in a company that is future-proofing itself from regulation or not? Well, I would say you absolutely want to invest in a company that's future-proof from regulation. It's common sense. It's reasonable. And any prudent person would think this is a good idea. So do you see kind of how, in some circumstances, ESG clearly makes sense?
Also, no.
Agree, because that's the premise, and reality is not the same as words. It's snake oil. Well, I don't think that's true at all. I think that a lot of companies get invested in because they have they have a future-proofed business plan. But you're not hearing about those companies because you're not in the business of, I don't know, making air conditioning.
People are just taking fucking money for free. And what Asmongold's saying here is completely stupid. Companies don't typically future-proof themselves like this. Companies are gonna future-proof themselves, yes, when they're the one lobbying in senates for a rule trying to become reality, okay? And even then, companies don't actually do the future-proofing. They make plans for what happens if X thing happens. That's something that they could do, but no fucking company is just magically future-proofing themselves for things that are not enacted. Because when something gets enacted in law, there is the grace period. Is it called the grace period? I don't know. There's the grace period of like a couple of years for companies to do it. No company is gonna just waste their resources doing nothing, achieving nothing, putting their effort into something that has no tangible benefit, okay? No company does this. No company future-proofs themselves like this. Only when a company knows that it's 100% coming or it's almost signed in, then they do it. Until that point, no one does anything because it's stupid, because it loses you money.
Units. Like, you're not hearing about that because the social thing is what
you're not hearing about that because no one does that.
We're always talking about. That's what's controversial. I think that it's common sense. It's reasonable that people...
Okay, Asmongold, relax with the common sense. Anyway, this was Quizzer Sensei. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.